Have you ever wondered what happens when a nation's spiritual identity begins to shift? In the heart of the Caucasus Mountains lies Armenia, a country with a profound Christian heritage. Yet subtle changes are stirring, leading to a quiet yet significant transformation. Armenia holds the distinction of being the first nation to adopt Christianity as its state religion in 301 AD. The Armenian Apostolic Church has been central to its national identity, with approximately 90% of the population affiliated with it. However, recent years have seen a decline in church attendance and religious participation, particularly among the youth. This growing detachment from the Armenian Apostolic Church has opened the door to quiet but noticeable spiritual exploration among segments of the population. While Christianity remains deeply ingrained in Armenia's cultural framework, a number of individuals, especially younger Armenians, are beginning to look beyond the traditional boundaries of faith that once defined their identity. Some are turning inward toward personal spirituality, while others are exploring entirely different religious paths, including Islam. Though the Muslim population in Armenia is still extremely small, the presence of Islamic thought and practice is increasingly visible through online platforms, interfaith dialogues, and small but active communities. For a country historically shaped by its Christian heritage, this emerging trend signifies more than just a religious shift. It reflects a broader search for meaning in an era marked by uncertainty, disillusionment with institutions, and the global exchange of ideas. This subtle transformation hints at a future where faith in Armenia may no longer be monolithic, but instead part of a more diverse and spiritually plural landscape. Small signs of this change are becoming visible across both urban and rural landscapes. In the capital city of Yerevan, modest Islamic centers have quietly opened their doors, often repurposed from unused or decaying buildings, and now host prayer sessions, Arabic language classes, and open discussions about faith. In certain neighborhoods, the soft echoes of the adhan, the Muslim call to prayer, can be faintly heard for the first time in centuries. It's not loud or widespread, but it exists, like a seed just beginning to break through the soil. On social media, Armenian influencers and content creators are sharing Quranic reflections, engaging in respectful conversations about Islamic teachings, and documenting the experiences of local converts. What once would have been considered taboo or even provocative is now part of a growing digital dialogue. Interestingly, this movement isn't driven by mass campaigns or foreign influence, but by personal stories. Many Armenians who have embraced Islam describe their journey not as a rebellion against their upbringing, but as a natural and sincere progression in their search for truth. Some cite years of spiritual dissatisfaction, others were drawn by the simplicity and clarity of Islamic teachings, and many simply stumbled upon it through a book, a conversation, or a YouTube video that sparked something deep within. These stories are not dramatic, they're quiet, thoughtful, and often filled with emotional depth. And for every public account, there are likely dozens more quietly unfolding behind closed doors, away from the public eye. In small towns like Vanadzor, Gyumri, and Dilijan, similar stories emerge. There, small mosques are being quietly constructed, often with funds pooled from local contributors rather than foreign donors. The community spirit behind these projects is striking. Muslims in these areas, both converts and long-standing minorities, speak of their faith with humility and sincerity, careful not to offend but confident in their path. Even more surprising is the participation of some Christian neighbors, who offer help in construction or attend interfaith gatherings out of curiosity and respect. These moments of solidarity hint at a deeper cultural transformation, one that values dialogue over division and seeks common humanity over rigid boundaries. And yet, all of this happens against a backdrop of silent tension. For many Armenians, especially the older generation, the sight of churches slowly emptying while mosques quietly open stirs a sense of loss. The image of the cross, once a proud national symbol, now shares space with the crescent moon. Religious leaders, both Christian and Muslim, tread carefully. Some Christian clergy openly express concern, wondering whether they have failed to meet the spiritual needs of the youth. Muslim leaders, on the other hand, try to avoid appearing triumphalist, choosing instead to focus on community building and service. Amid this silent shift, Armenia stands on the threshold of a new chapter, one not born out of conquest or political mandate, but from the subtle stirrings of the human soul in search of meaning. Amid this backdrop, a quiet spiritual shift is occurring. Reports indicate that some Armenians are exploring Islam, drawn by personal quests for meaning and community. While the Muslim population in Armenia remains less than 0.1%, the presence of Islam is becoming more visible through online discussions, social media, and the establishment of community centers. In cities like Yerevan, mosques and Islamic cultural centers are emerging, often funded by local communities. These spaces serve not only as places of worship, but also as hubs for education and social interaction. This development is noteworthy, considering Armenia's historical resistance to religious change during periods of Muslim rule. The decline in traditional church attendance has led to some churches being repurposed or facing closure due to unsustainable operational costs. This shift has prompted introspection among religious leaders about the church's role in contemporary Armenian society. In this climate of change, what once seemed unthinkable is now unfolding quietly but steadily: the rise of Islam as a spiritual alternative within Armenian borders. The new Islamic cultural centers, while modest in scale, symbolize a deeper shift in values and spiritual orientation among a small yet growing group of Armenians. These centers often offer more than just religious services. They host community dinners during Ramadan, Arabic and Quranic studies for both children and adults, and even outreach programs that provide aid to the poor regardless of faith. What's particularly striking is the organic nature of this growth. These are not state-sponsored projects, nor the result of aggressive missionary work, but grassroots efforts driven by individuals who found peace, structure, and clarity in Islam. Converts often speak of Islam not as a rejection of their Armenian heritage, but as a personal evolution. Many of them retain deep respect for their Christian upbringing and describe their journey as one of spiritual continuity rather than rupture. In their view, Islam offered a moral framework and discipline that they felt was lacking in their previous religious experience. Some were moved by the stories of the prophets, shared in both the Bible and the Quran, recognizing familiar figures but finding new perspectives. Others were drawn to Islam's emphasis on social justice, prayer, and the direct relationship between the individual and God without intermediaries. This gradual transformation is not without resistance. There have been instances of social pushback, ranging from skepticism and alienation to outright hostility, especially in conservative circles where Christianity is deeply tied to national identity. But alongside the resistance, there is also a quiet current of curiosity. Interfaith dialogue events, once rare, are slowly becoming more frequent. Young Armenians, even those not interested in conversion, are attending Islamic lectures and browsing Quranic texts, simply to understand what is drawing their peers in. Religious leaders within the Armenian church have taken note. Some are beginning to reflect critically on the church's disconnect with the younger generation, acknowledging that ritual alone may no longer suffice in an era of widespread spiritual searching. A few have even started reimagining their own methods of engagement, focusing more on dialogue, service, and authenticity in a bid to retain relevance. This spiritual crossroads signals something far more significant than changing religious affiliations. It speaks to a deeper yearning within Armenian society, a collective quest for truth, purpose, and meaning, in a world that feels increasingly uncertain. This evolving religious landscape raises questions about national identity and cultural continuity. Some view the exploration of Islam as a natural progression in a pluralistic society, while others express concern over the potential erosion of Armenia's Christian heritage. The government's silence on this matter reflects the sensitivity and complexity of the issue. Religious leaders are grappling with these changes. Some acknowledge the need for the church to adapt and engage more effectively with younger generations. Others worry that the rise of alternative spiritual paths may lead to a loss of cultural cohesion. The balance between preserving tradition and embracing diversity remains a delicate challenge. Armenia stands at a crossroads, navigating the interplay between its deep-rooted Christian identity and the emerging presence of Islam. This transformation is unfolding quietly, driven by personal journeys and a search for meaning. As the nation continues to evolve, the outcome of this spiritual shift remains to be seen. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.